started. It's close. New battery probably making it go. So it's not an official meeting. It's basically, it's a public meeting that we want to get input, but as far as city council, it's really not a formal meeting, okay? We're going to record it just so we can get the feedback and, see where we're at. We're going to have the podium going here and the mic up there. If you want to do some feedback, we'd like to have you come up there and just, if you could just state your name, and that way we can maybe transcribe it later and stuff like that. So, down all hands, we have board member Scott Anderson, council member, Don Miller, and Betty Marcier, myself. Over on the,
I thought we were going to use our mics, so it's all right.
and over here we have
Appreciate the offer, though.
Lauren Grosner, our public works director, and Keith Mulholland from Robinson Engineering. So, a while back, we went ahead and worked with our consultant. We really didn't know where we wanted to go with as far as grant attempts, and we didn't have a lot of feedback. And so I said, well, let's see what we can do with this park thing because it's been discussed as far as improving amenities. And if we went through the Illinois Department of Natural Resource, it's OSLAD. I do not know what that abbreviation or acronym stands for.
Open Space Lands Acquisition and Development.
What he said. And so we kind of looked at, and I guess I'll just take you to this. Survey, everybody. This is what we did recently with the Illinois Housing and Development Association. And the main part of the back, there's good information on the front as far as what the needs assessment is for Watsika. But on the back of it, we call this the back. You'll see a list down in the lower left-hand corner. And, I can go through some of the things that we've done in the last, 8 years. And affordable housing we're working on presently. And we're working on somebody that's not going to be in this section as far as that goes. Business and retail. I think in the last 3 years, I think someone said that we had about 14 new startups. But the third one, recreation. And that's what we're looking at as far as the recreation. And one of the first few questions that we've always been told is when somebody's thinking about moving to a place, what are the schools like? What's the healthcare? What's crime? And then somewhere, what do you do for leisure? Okay? So that was, I guess, the inspiration as far as doing that. I can go through industry. I think in the last 8 years, we've had 4 things as far as industry. We took care of a long-term dispute over here with Lions, and they've now been able to move a lot of their new production to the park that was kind of sitting empty for a while. We helped with T&D Metal on a real interest loan for their gun safe.
Thank you, sir.
And we got DISS with Archie Lumber. And they're now in the former People's Building. They've expanded so much and had some new jobs. And then, of course, with Lions Polystacks, where they're mostly in a support element with the new owners. The owner of the building and the new owners that have come in, and when they get running, they're going to have about 70 to 80 jobs. Community programming and activities. I don't really have anything to name here, but I couldn't define that to myself. And then 6, we got the flood and infrastructure, and we've done something about every 6 years as far as roads with different technologies, and we've done a lot of underground work. So I think this council has a record they can be proud of that we've done in the last few years. So moving on with that, the main thing focus here is this park grant, and it's about 2.3 million. Okay, help me out.
Just under 2.2 or 1.2. 1.2. Sorry.
So, but I'm going to just give you a brief. We have some texts or whatever, I guess Facebook posts as far as feedback on this, and then we also have where we are getting emails here at the City Hall. And then the last thing, we have 2 studies. One's real current. It's 2023, and they said that we need to look into this recreation. But if you go back to the 2014, and I know I'm going through this quick, I'll kind of let you take the information, or you can leave it up here and we can just go through it if you want. But too, and I mean, they had a nice $100,000 grant from St. Michelle, but there's still some gold in here, but along with the housing and development, that's what we kind of came up with. So I'm gonna be quiet and let the folks that have the all know and say go on with where we're at.
Kick it off. Good evening, everyone. We all appreciate everyone showing up to this. The council, myself, the city, we need everyone's input on this. We want to make sure that you're just as much of a part of this as we are with the grants and the actual park improvements if we get to that point. I want to remind everybody to please sign in so we have an attendance sheet. There's one circulating. If not, I believe there's one up here. If not, we have more over here. So, as everyone's aware, we have this OSLAD grant, as Mayor Allhands discussed, and this is for Lakeview across the street here. So there was a few things that took place when we were looking at this grant. We needed space. Lakeview had the most space in town. I know that's been some concerns on where you can do these amenities at. And this grant only allows you to do these amenities in one park. We can apply for another grant if we want to do amenities in other parks, but this grant is strictly for Lakeview. So, sorry to disappoint if anybody wanted to move some of these amenities to different parks. But, you know, once you get past this, we can apply for more grants in the future if people want to see other activities in different parks. So, the program funding is through a portion of the state's real estate transfer tax. It's not federal funded. And then, as John said earlier, this is just under a $1.2 million project. It is a 50% match, so we received almost $600,000 to put toward this project. So I'm just going to get right into some of the concerns with dollars. So the city has the opportunity to do work in-house to help offset our 50%. If everybody has this sheet here, it's got some dollar amounts. If you don't, let us know. It should be within your packet that was handed out. This,
If somebody needs one, let me know and I can
Yeah.
bring some out. I gave her one.
oh yeah, I want.
Does anybody need one? That's full, I have another sheet.
Cool. In the red. Oh,
Yeah, I got one space left on this here.
I need to sign in as well.
All right, I'll start back here to move if you want.
Okay, so you'll see all the amenities broke down, the cost per amenity. So you'll see pickleball courts, the outdoor fitness court, sand volleyball, the splash pad, the amphitheater, and then there was some money put in this for sidewalks. I know that has been a topic on social media as well, and that has not been ignored or forgotten. We know that we always need more sidewalks to get to different locations here in town. So you'll see in the green, that's highlighted. These are items that the city employees can install ourselves, and that portion of work will go toward the 50% offset that the city has to fund. So at the very bottom, we'll kind of skip down a little bit. You'll see that our match is $580,000 if we were to outsource every dollar of that work. We've gone through and we've deemed that with the city doing work, the offset's about $294,000. So cash out of pocket for the city to do this project is roughly $286,000. And this is a 2-year grant, so we can split this project up into 2 years. We can pick what we want to do this year, finish the project up next year, but we do have to do everything in order to get the grant. So I think with using city equipment, city employees, we have great people on staff. We have good equipment, as people have discussed here in the council. We've spent money on equipment. We'd like to put it to use. It's a great opportunity to do some offsets for costs.
Lauren, I have a question.
Yep.
Since it is a grant,
Mhm.
you have to pay prevailing wage for the stuff that the city does?
So that we have to calculate our costs for city employees, benefits, everything. It's, if we outsource it, yes, it would be a prevailing wage job. So the more we can do in-house, it's a greater offset. And ultimately, this is an estimate for the project, the 1.2 or $1.2 million. So the cost of the project could come down. You know, obviously, when you're doing rough estimates, you know, these items, you'll see these amenities here. These are not written in stone. This is not exactly what we're building or constructing, but you have to provide something in the grant to give the grant, you know, writers and the state an idea of what you're looking to do. So you'll see like the amphitheater, that's just the shell. We just took a basic screenshot of something. So same with splash pad. The outdoor fitness center, that's probably about what it's going to be, because those are pretty basic. It's all your own weight. You know, there's no moving components on that. Sand volleyball and pickleball courts are pretty basic. There's not much to change there. So with the public's input, we'd like to hear what, you know, how big of a splash pad, how many water items, features you guys would like to see. The amphitheater, what would the public like to see? Do we want just another pavilion with seating, or are we looking for more of a staged atmosphere to have our local bands that, you know, be able to come in, do a nice little concert in the afternoons or whatnot? The sky's the limit right now. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, well, and I guess to Chris's point on prevailing wage, I guess that would probably play a lot into the variability of what the city's actual outlay of cash outlay would be then, because impact of where the costs come in then, and then out of that 200 and some odd thousand, having served on 20 years of the school board, knowing what prevailing wage does to costs and also then does to out of pocket. So that 280 some odd thousand, if, again, we're dealing with a lot of variables, that could really be impacted greatly if now we're talking prevailing wage for not being able to use the city employees then, correct?
That is correct. Unfortunately, through the grant, we're unable to recoup cost of equipment that we use unless we were to rent or lease equipment. So if there's any specialty items that we need to bore in anything, we decide to rent that. We could offset some costs there, but likely we're not going to do that. So yes, this cost could change a little bit depending on what we do, if we outsource everything or not. So, you know, the idea when we went into this is for the city to try to do as much as possible to keep costs down. And then you'll see in red under the outdoor fitness center, we were also awarded another grant between $30,000 and $50,000. We won't know until we go into design, and that is for the outdoor exercise equipment. So it's actually 2 grants that was received on this project. So totaling more like $650,000. So what else we got here? I don't know, Keith, you got any more to add to the dollars? I don't know if I broke it down real well or not, but
No, you did good.
but, you know, these items, again, this is all rough estimates, and it is estimated high. So we are expecting costs to actually come down on this. Again, if the total cost comes down to 1 million, our offset's 500,000, and then the work goes, you know, still hand in hand as far as what we do in-house would be the offset. So at the end of the day, we are expecting the overall cost to come down, but you have to put numbers to a grant to get it. So, and you're not gonna spend a lot of money in engineering to do a full design just to get a grant, or try to get a grant that you might not even receive. You know, I myself am pretty excited that we received such a large grant, because there's communities nearby that applied for the same grant and was denied. So we're pretty fortunate that they considered this and gave us what they did. So I'm just going to address some questions that have been put on social media, if that's okay. So, you know, I've been tracking social media. I'm not a big social media person. I didn't want to get into the all-day back and forth on social media. I have a job to do. So I hope nobody feels I completely ignored them on social media. I was just trying not to get into that. So I was really hoping for you guys to just show up. So questions on there, you know, people had concerns, are taxes going to go up? Absolutely not. To my knowledge, Waseca has not raised their portion of the property taxes since before 2008. I know we've seen tax inflation recently, but that was due to assessed values. That had nothing to do with the city raising property taxes. The funding, so we do have funds available. You know, the city has reserves. So we, you know, since a big portion of this project is going to be water and sewer, there's a lot of storm sewer involved with this. We're looking to fund our $286,000 out of, you know, cash out of pocket, half of that through our water reserves, and the other half through our general funds. John, is it okay if I speak about our funds here? So currently, our cash funds we have available for our water account, we're at $2.8 million. And I know that sounds like a lot of money, especially to people that are paying water bills. $2.8 million is 3 water main projects. You know, I mean, you're looking at about $1 million a piece anymore. Cost of material, labor, whenever we outsource things, it's expensive. Like you said, we have prevailing wages that we have to cover. So we're looking at about $150,000 to be pulled out of the water funds. And in our general budget or general account, we have about $2.2 million available. So the other half would come out of there. So this wouldn't impact anybody's water rates, sewer rates, taxes. The city has done very well with managing their money to have cash available and reserves for emergency, you know, equipment failing, road work, things like that. Everything's expensive, but we have reserves available. But again, you know, we are looking for the public's input. You know, these reserves are here for, you know, whether it's infrastructure repairs, park amenities, things like that. So we do want your guys' input on that. But we do have funds available for this project. Between that and then doing the offset with the work in-house, I think it makes this project very doable. So some of the other questions, sidewalks, we have considered sidewalks. Obviously, we put money in the grant for sidewalks. It's just a matter of which way do you start? Do you bring it from Walnut first, or do you bring it from Elm Street? I am currently working on easements for another water main, or not easements, let me take that back, right-of-ways on Elm Street to do a water main project this summer that Public Works is going to take care of. With that right-of-way, gives us the ability to run sidewalks from A Street all the way up here to Brianna and then over to the park. So that's not something we're ignoring. We know we need sidewalks. To start with, we would likely start from Walnut, continue sidewalk to the park. That's going to be the fastest, easiest route, and then eventually bring sidewalk up to Elm Street. That's going to be that's going to be a pretty costly project. You're probably 3,000 feet of sidewalk just to get to Brianna Drive. So I don't have the cost in front of me. I didn't calculate that. I apologize, but that's not going to be a cheap sidewalk to install. So that may be in the future, but that's something that we've already discussed. I've talked to numerous council members. That's something they'd like to see. Noise. I know we've had some concerns with the noise people hear amphitheater, they get concerned about noise. We have ordinances in place. We have noise ordinances and we have park ordinances. Our park's technically supposed to close at dark. Not saying that there may be events put on and people are given a permit to have a one-off late show or whatnot, but in that case, we would expect whoever's putting on the event to talk to the surrounding neighbors, make sure they're aware of it, people don't have an issue. Just like the family festival out at the Legion Park, that's what we do out there. We make sure the neighbors are aware of the times and the dates. Everybody seems to, be pretty happy with that, and I think a nice little amphitheater, and we're not bringing in AC/DC and Metallica, so we're looking for somewhere our local bands have somewhere to go to play, and utilize our parks. So
Designed properly, the audio would probably shoot more towards Main Street anyways, not
and that's it, and that's
Lakeview apart.
that's a good point. So if you're looking at this, none of that's set in stone. We can move things wherever we want, wherever the public would rather see things. The idea is to keep the splash pad near the kids' activities, and then the pickleball court's gonna go on the concrete pad where the ice rink was. So we thought, let's keep the sand volleyball and the outdoor gym close to that, because that's more of an adult activity. The band shell is really open. It would be nice to have it up in that peninsula up, because I think it'd be a nice view, and realistically, it would probably go toward Walnut, so. And we could always look at backdrops and things like that if we really want, so.
It would be nice to have a stage area raised up.
I think you're right, and then this picture is just a very, very generic picture of it, yeah. So, probably the big topic is geese. We talked about that the other night. We have been working on removing the geese. We've purchased a laser that we go out there. It works really well, scaring the geese off. They think it's a predator. We've been working on nest and egg removals. Unfortunately, you have to have a permit and license to do so, so we have to have a company brought in to do that. We've tried some cheap decoys. We may look at something a little bit more expensive, maybe motorized, but you have to be careful of the kids and things like that. Swans were brought up the other night. I reached out to the company I've been using. So we use Wild Goose Chase to help us with this currently. Unfortunately, they said they do not use swans as they don't find them effective. They said that they're very aggressive during mating season, but they find that the geese are just as aggressive and territorial. So they've tried it. They said it wasn't worth the cost. So, but we've been looking at some other lasers that you put out in the water. It's a moving laser, but you have to be careful with lasers with kids and people in the park. So, we're treading lightly, but we are trying our hardest. Unfortunately, the geese have been there 20 plus years. We're not going to rid them overnight. So this is going to be a 2, 3, 4, 5 year process. Getting rid of their nest and eggs. Eventually, they're going to find out that it's not a good location to have a nest and try to get geese, goslings, whatever you want to call them. So, or have goslings. So we are working on that. And we're aware. The last thing we want to do is have a splash pad that's taken over by geese. But the city has jetters. We have tools. If we have to power wash the splash pad until we do rid the geese, so be it. We have a broom on our skid loader. We sweep the trail 3 times a week, weather, timing permitted. So we try to take care of the goose poop. We're aware it's an issue for the public. We just installed the story walk boards 2 years ago. So we've seen a lot more activity out there. So we're aware and we're trying to remove the geese. It's not as easy as people would like to.
I think they have been reduced somewhat.
As you say, I believe that the numbers have been reduced, but they're still here and we're still working on it.
Like I said, once she walks the dog, it's not near the fish it used to be.
No, it's not.
So it's just a cycle we have to break with them. So
All of these new amenities and, you know, keeping up with if there's food stuff, all of that. Do you think your staff is adequately staffed to add these, or are we looking at needing to add more people in the future to maintain the facilities?
So the council's been generous enough to allow me to use high schoolers and a college intern, which I think is a great incorporation to our staff. You know, we're teaching young minds, you know, work ethics, you know, teaching them jobs, you know, so I want to continue that instead of, you know, hiring full-time staff at, you know, paying benefits, things like that. We can maybe add another high schooler to our summer staff, and they can help that offset if there is extra cleaning, maintenance, things like that. You know, these are great jobs for high schoolers, and it really benefits the younger generation. So we started that last year, and we had 3 high schoolers part-time and 1 college intern, and it went over really well. We've actually been able to save some costs in other areas by utilizing them even at the yard waste facility. So a good program like that helps offset costs and accomplish the job as well. And then there was some concerns that this won't be used due to the splash pad at the pool doesn't get used. This is a completely different environment. You know, yeah, exactly. If I'm at a pool, I'm going to be in the pool, not at a splash pad with water raining down on me. Over here, you know, not only is it at a park where the kids are going to be hot playing on swings and things like that, you're going in and out of the splash pad. And the best part of this is it's 100% free to the community. You know, and this is going to entice people to come to our community. You know, I hear every summer how I went to Kankakee for their splash pad. I went here to this splash pad. I want people to come to our parks. I don't like hearing that our citizens and kids are leaving our community using other people's splash pads. I know it's a cost, but this is keeping people in our community, helping our economy, because ultimately these people that are staying here are likely to go out to dinner, get fuel, pick up their groceries here instead of up in Kankakee, things like that. So I feel that a splash pad is going to be used. You know, we have low-income families that can't afford a pool pass. This gives them the opportunity to get to the park. Their kids can enjoy it at no cost. So yeah, I believe it'll be used. I've heard from numerous people that was a big void in Watsika is not having a splash pad for the kids. So, and
The pool only has 1 feature in there.
exactly, and this is multiple features. It's a bigger area for the kids to play in. I feel that that's kind of comparing apples to oranges.
I think at one time that was a 0 down to like 2 foot.
Yeah, there was some damage to the pipes or whatnot. They filled it in.
Those kids go to Clifton Pool,
Yeah.
they get their fix. You know, so, or at least run others.
Yeah, but you know, a lot of other areas are actually losing their pools. I want to say System Parks, pools closed. There was another pool I heard just closed recently. I'm not trying to take away from our public pool. I'm just trying to add to our parks to give people different opportunities and different amenities. The water discharge into our pond, there was some concerns brought to me about the splash pad. We are not pumping water out of the pond for our splash pad. We are using potable water from their drinking water system, so that the water will be safe. And we are legally allowed to discharge that water out of that splash pad into our stormwater system that will ultimately go into our ponds. We will monitor the chlorine levels. If we have to, the water will go into a manhole before it's discharged into the ponds. We can neutralize the chlorine at that point. We absolutely do not intend to kill any wildlife in our ponds. I've spent a lot of time, we've spent a lot of money restocking, except for the geese, yeah. But we've spent a lot of time and money and effort restocking our ponds. I love seeing the kids out there fishing and the parents. You know, last thing I want to see is a fish kill. So we've done our homework on this long ago. So
We verified that with IDNR and
EPA, yep. So Keith, I'm gonna turn it over to you if you have anything, otherwise, I think we,
I think you pretty much hit it all, so.
okay. So,
You wanna talk about the push button?
oh yeah, so the splash pad, each feature will have a push button that'll be set on a timer, so the water's not just constantly running. If the water was running all the time, we'd have to do a recirculation system, kinda like the pool, and then you'd add chemical treatment, and yeah, it'd add to the cost quite a bit. So we decided to go with the push button feature, so when the kids are out there playing, they push a button, the water runs for 30, 60 seconds, whatever we wanna set it at. And so we're not wasting potable water as well. So it's, yes, sir.
Question on the parking for like the sand volleyball area. So say you had like a little event come up and you got, you know, if you think you need 2 sand volleyball courts, I would assume you got, how many people are on volleyball? 5 on each side or something? Yeah, so I'm just wondering on how many spots are there on that road currently?
Oh, I don't,
Maybe 15.
I was gonna say, yeah, possibly about 15 there. You know, we have the main parking lot, we have City Hall's parking lot. It's, you know, we have the room to add parking if we really want. It's just gonna depend if we find that it is being used and we do get people having tournaments, things like that. It's a parking lot adjustment if need be, or, you know, if that's a concern now, we can always shift those down and add to the parking. I mean, this is what we're here for tonight, is ideas and what everybody,
Yeah, just maybe leave some room in case.
we can add to.
When that does get busy, that could be expanded.
You know, and I'm really hoping the schools utilize these things, you know, it gives them, you know, I hear kids go over to Crescent City for the sand volleyball, I mean,
There could be money makers, you know, tournaments, and stuff like that for the park district, for the school.
pickleball is huge with the kids, yeah. Yeah.
Well, and with that said, is there any thought about some kind of building for concessions or events?
I mean, I would say, consider it's not flooding, so we could
Yeah.
haul something in.
Well, the other thing too is with that amphitheater or band shell, I mean, there's different ones that have the concessions and available in those. Again, they're gonna cost more, but some of them have bathrooms, some of them have concessions, so again, we're looking for feedback, you know, what is the community looking for?
You know, currently, we only have a porta potty out here at Lakeview. With this water main extension over for the splash pad, it gives us the water source. We already have a sewer running down the south side of that property. We can add bathrooms. Again, that's going to be additional cost, or we could look at doing that in the future as a next step, you know, project. But
I guess the only other thing I'd like to, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, you know, we're looking at trying to do other events, and, you know, the Legion already has established with us. We're not trying to change that. We think we can supplement some events here, and maybe have some impulse people stopping off at 24 saying, hey, what's going on? You know, we talked about a carnival in the back here, if we would shut down the road. Because we did get that dispute with, it was before I got in, with Lions. At one time, they were saying, yeah, on the weekend, if they don't have a shift going, then we can let some of their parking. You know, I would reach out to, we'll reach out to Burcott's or Runnings or whatever the case may be. Like I said, this is to kind of supplement, and maybe bring in additional things. I mean, besides that, we're looking at high school plays. I mean, you know, there could be a whole bunch of things that could be done inside that bench.
Go ahead.
I've been lucky enough to be in like 100 towns and cities, in the home, see the parks, train dog at every park in 100 towns. I saw what Mantino's been doing. I watched how fast that town's grown in the last 7 years just from putting in parks. A lot of people think it's a spending cost, but all of our employees in our town are getting paid to help build the buildings, to help build the stuff. I don't think a lot of other people outsource it. You guys are already bringing your guys in-house. Lauren cares about his teams, he cares about his workers. I know him personally. And this stuff brings in economy that we don't think about. I bring in, as soon as I did the math, on average, I've had 15 states come here for me to talk, and I bring in about $30,000 a year out of county, out of state money. And we were talking about that, and I said, they were asking me, like, I had Indy's Best Dog truck come in, and we drove through Watsika, and a lot of times they just think it's, because nobody goes on 4th Street, 2nd Street, it goes back into town. It opens up another pocket, because people just kind of go through Watsika and don't think about it. This thing will draw, and the cost over time, Mayor, and that was the long game. stuff is a draw. And with the draw comes the economy. So even all the bar graphs, all those charts, within 5 years, those things will completely change just to these things. I've seen these parks, I've seen these little pockets happen that so-and-so hangs out with so-and-so. And like he said, there's a tournament, somebody has a concert. Those things start bringing in revenue of accident. It's for me personally, I'm in big support of it because the way it's being done, it's not, all the information they gave to you, face value, what it is, you try to go behind and try to change things. They offer you the options to move those, so I got a lot of faith in the system like you guys are doing. I understand the long game of it, and it's huge because you already had a water area. Nobody ever uses it. I go back there maybe once in a while to train. You see people walking back there. You will draw. That means Burkott's going to get filled up. Runnings is going to get filled up. These areas get filled up. And then where the skate park and all that stuff's not getting used a lot, they'll get used finally again because that is going to draw that usage of that. If you look at the long game, it's got a lot more good than that.
I mean, those are great points. Being on the family festival, listening to people during our event, it's amazing that local people didn't even realize the Legion Park was there. People, like you said, they don't leave the main street. Everybody's focused on getting from point A to point B. They miss all these great parks, these amenities, things like that. So this will be an attraction. Get them off Main Street. Recognize that we have more to offer in this community. Try to keep people here, bring people here. Growing up here my whole life, the big thing was, well, why would I stay here to raise my family? There's nothing here for my kids to do. So you see a lot of the young generation move on down the road because they go to Mantino because there is a splash pad or things like that. So, not only bring people into our community, but keep the ones that we have here.
Hang out together because, everything pre-COVID, we hung out a lot more. Post-COVID, like Chris is trying to have multiple events and he's got a great venue and he gets nobody to show up. Well, when you put on flashing lights and really fancy stuff, quote unquote, and quotes, people draw in there. And then you build community because people are working together and talking.
In free amenities goes a long ways in a community. When you hear people that are struggling and now they have somewhere to go that's free for a splash pad, a free volleyball, free pickleball, a free amphitheater that I can go put on a small show for a group of friends or whatever, free goes a long ways in a community and you will see people here.
I think to Chris's point with the concession stand, we can encourage lots of basketballs and.
I think we have a concession stand, to be honest.
Yeah,
And equipment that can be checked out.
Exactly.
yeah. And this is, that's a great opportunity. You put a high schooler there, they can run that concession. It gives them the opportunity to make some money. The summer months, we have somebody with their eyes on the park, provide the equipment to individuals. It's a win-win for the community, whether it's the kids using it or opportunities that we provide to the people. I truly feel it's a win-win for our community.
And it's really all ages too. And the other thing, it's across from the police station, so.
Yeah, you can't really ask for a better location. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Lauren, as we're looking at the big picture here for these items, do we have the potential to expand? We talked about reference to Mantino. Probably many, speaking of Mantino, probably haven't even been up there downtown to see their downtown area and what they've done. We talked about their splash pad. They've got one, I don't know, it's a glider, I don't know what to call it, for kids. You can do that.
And
They've got a,
that's one of them.
they've got a bounce area that's a padded area. They've got a lot, and I'm just, not that we would do that, but just to give expansion opportunities, or are we limited because of the pond?
Well, no, I don't think so. Like Tanner said, we just have to have that forethought on where to place things now. If we're going to look at more parking, let's place the sand volleyball in the right place so we can expand the parking. If we think that, hey, let's add some more kids amenities like that, then that means we need to move the amphitheater in the correct location to where we can expand the kids area.
Right.
So pickleball have to go right where the old ice skating rink was. Are you utilizing that?
We're utilizing the concrete to keep costs down, Okay, well, thanks for coming, Derek. So, yeah, it's a matter of trying to have the long-term vision too. Oh, Derek, your jacket. Is that your jacket? Oh, no, that's,
Thanks, brother. You guys take care, thank you.
so, tonight is just about getting input, getting ideas put together. Like we said earlier, this is not written in stone. We want people's input. We have, unfortunately, till April 22nd to sign the agreement for the grant. Originally, it was March 12th. We didn't feel it was right to sign an agreement without getting the public's input. I think everybody's been working on transparency and community involvement. It's not just transparency. If we have no involvement, it's hard to be transparent to people, correct? So, getting people here to listen to what's going on, because we had a meeting last year to discuss this. These have been here all year long. And, we took people's input, and that's why we moved forward with applying for the grant. So now it's a matter of what do people want to see, what kind of band shelters, or do we even want to move forward with this? Because if it's nothing but negativity and people don't see the vision here, then there's no point in the city moving forward with $300,000 out of pocket and, tying up equipment and labor. So,
Well, and if you're doing all that sewer work downtown, would it make sense, since you're digging up the ground anyways, when you put it back, to just put the sidewalk over the top of it?
and that is a discussion that I'm going to have probably next month in Public Works meeting, because there is some grade work that has to take place to do the water main project, but then grade work that has to take place in order to put in the sidewalk. So 100%, but I want to calculate some costs, and I was going to provide that to the council next month to say, if we're doing this, this is the additional cost.
I just think that's a safer route for our kids than down Main Street if we can avoid it. Granted, that is quicker, and I agree with that too, so.
I mean, you grew up here, I mean, West Side, Peters Park, and if you're going to Legion Park, I mean, we're having to cross,
Yeah.
Walnut at some point.
At some point.
You know.
So if we, the savers wouldn't make it,
But, those are costs I'll present to the council next month, and that's something that Public Works can do in-house, but we still have material costs that we will incur, so, but yeah,
Already digging it up.
100%, we can prep the ground right then and there and pour concrete. Again, you gotta let things settle, but you can do initial grade work after the water main's installed, and then come back and do.
last week, when we had the nice weather, 70 degrees, I mean, the park over here that nobody wanted when it was coming in, I mean, that parking lot was packed. So, I think this can be an additional draw, and we have to figure out some additional parking that's,
We have a lot of beautiful parks here in Watsika. We're very grateful and lucky to have so many nice parks, But our parks are kind of split up to different amenities. We got Peters Park for our baseball fields. K Park is kind of closer to some of your restaurants, smaller park, but it's also by Forest, which is another baseball field. Donovan Park's not technically ours, but we are working on trying to take ownership of that. It's just a lot of space there in the center of town that would open up opportunities, but that is not our park. We currently mow it and try to do basic maintenance. We don't do repairs because our insurance doesn't cover that park currently, but we're working on that, and then we have the West Side Park, which opens up. We got basketball over there. We got a nice playground equipment. This was, huh?
There's a ton of kids there.
Yeah, and West Side is heavily utilized. You would just have to do a lot of clearing of trees, and I don't know if you would have the space for everything there. So that's why we really looked at Lakeview, because it is kind of a blank slate. It's a newer park that doesn't have 100-year trees or 100-year-old trees. I feel like I'm missing a park. Legion's not ours, so we can't do anything there. The pool is ours, but the park is not ours.
Forest Park.
Yeah, Forest Park with the ball diamond there. So this, Peters Park, but that's pretty much tied up with all the ball diamonds. We have a small space that we looked at possibly in the future doing a dog park. We looked at some fencing costs there, but that's pretty limited on space there as well, so.
and the thing about started looking into it, you have chain link fence, because it's in the floodplain, it's gonna capture debris, force it onto somebody else, so any of these, flood buyout, lots, really can't build on that so much. Other than some recreation, they mentioned disc golf, but other than butterfly gardens, prairie grass, and stuff like that. But, you know, that was still a valuable program, and I'm just gonna go off on a tangent a little bit. I've been to some of those closings, and when those folks get their money, you just see a burden lifted off their shoulders, so. You know, hopefully, with that restricted deed, they kind of laxed up on that a little bit, where we can do some more stuff. But right now, it's pretty restricted.
Yeah, back to the parks, you know, some of the concerns on, you know, why are we putting everything here? You know, we had to focus on one park for amenities. Again, once we get past this grant and this project, if we're able to do it, you know, we wanted the input from the public to say, what would we like to see at some of our other parks? And we have other grants we can apply for, add to it. But, you know, I feel in the last couple of years, we've really cleaned up our parks by bringing the mowing back in-house. We put a lot of pride in our parks. My kids use them. I know a lot of people that take their kids to these parks, so I put a lot of pride in them myself. We have beautiful parks. I love seeing people using them, whether it's West Side, K Park, you know, Forest, Peters, here, even Legion Park, you know, working with the Legion. They have a beautiful park there. I love the fact that we have the festival that introduced a lot of people to that park as well. So that is really my spiel as far as just kind of touching bases on some of the concerns I've seen on social media. So I would love to open this up to public that's here now. Answer any questions, concerns, good, bad, or ugly, please.
We take the splash pad here and just redo the splash pad that's at the pool now? Would this grant work for that?
What was that?
Has to stay in that part.
These
Yeah,
grants,
sorry, Justin, you missed that. Unfortunately, this grant, everything has to stay in this park because the grant was wrote for this park.
What kind of square footage are you looking at for the amphitheater? Like seating for roughly? I know that we're really early, but is there a rough idea of what we're?
we show a 100 by 60-foot box on the drawing here, which kind of correspond to that drawing on the second page. Again, is it an amphitheater? Is it a band shell? We don't have that component nailed down yet. We're trying to get public input to see what would be the best fit for the park.
That be something you could move the farmers market into?
Possibly, and that's the ideas we're looking for. Is how can we utilize these?
Keys Farmers Market is awesome, and if we're doing a pavilion, we have a lot of people that really take agriculture and growing seriously here. We could really grow that too.
And I feel at that point, you can let your kids play in the park while you're shopping for some food. I mean,
Put it
it's
closer to the road, because nobody's wanna haul their tomatoes 200 yards over to the,
Well,
Yeah.
that's what we talked about along this sidewalk here, just have a lot of vendors there and
yeah.
stuff.
so.
Maybe somewhere to plug, like if you didn't have a concession stand yet, where there's an event, food trucks could come in, promote some more
Exactly.
small
When we
business.
thought about closing that down.
Somewhere
we
they
have a
can
food
plug
truck.
in and hook up to.
Cause we did a food truck, festival up in, his neighborhood, and we couldn't believe all the different food trucks around.
I got a question that it's been asked from the seniors at Lakeview, and this could be like so far-fetched or maybe down the line. On the map there, you can see like where the fishing pier is.
Yeah.
Has it ever been talked about to have like a Legion Park style bridge type thing? I don't know how much.
We
A lot of them that would love to like walk it, but they just can't quite make the whole loop. Where I just wonder how many other
It was talked
people.
about on that side because you had the parking and stuff like that, and, just imagine at prom time and.
Right.
Yeah. But, that has been thought about, those bridges aren't cheap.
I'm sure, yeah.
And,
I just wonder how many people don't walk that park because they can't quite
Well,
make
it
the
adds
whole
an
loop.
extra.
It's a long,
adds
where they could
extra
cut it in
mileage
half,
if you're
yeah.
trying to do that, because we had talked about doing around this pond, coming over and,
Yeah.
joining into these, try to get through somewhere over here and go around, I call it sock pond, it looks like a sock pond.
Yeah.
When you're there, and when I talked to one of the healthcare, they said,
Yeah, they just kinda asked me, I kinda asked for their input before I came tonight.
Sure.
That was one of the things they had asked about, so they're like, we'd like to be able to, walk it and exercise it, but, we can't quite, they're wore out by the time they make it, so it's like maybe if they could cut it in half, that's something plain maybe something to look
And, with the exercise equipment, I mean, it's based off their weight bearing, so I mean, they might be able to do some mild exercises there too.
And that's planning for the future. If that's something that we want to look at, we'd look at where would we put that in the future, and move things around to where we can accommodate that in the future, and whether we budget for it or seek grants for it. Yeah, I mean, these are things we want to hear. We want ideas that are outside of our own, because we hope you guys are going to use it as well. So,
Sure, the seniors would really like
yeah.
a bathroom located on that trail too, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a fly in the soup, but a bathroom is gonna be very successful in that area.
And bathrooms are expensive, and they're expensive to maintain.
You gotta keep an eye on them.
Well, so the porta potty shelters, they don't look so bad. These are things that are low cost to the city that we can add as we find are needed. Because let's face it, if you're gonna have pickleball and sand volleyball and workout area, you don't want people leaving halfway through because they need to use the restroom. Obviously, City Hall's open during the day. We have the bathroom all the way over here and by the parking lot. So, those are things that we may say, okay, a simple concrete pad and a shelter and another porta potty is needed over here. And those are low cost items.
Does the splash pad does the water get, I know you said there's a button to turn the water on, right? Okay, does the water get cut off to where the button does not work after hours?
So I
Yeah.
believe there's features that we can set whatever we really want. Yeah.
Yeah, the city can set how long it runs. So usually when you push the button, it runs a cycle through the different, there's I think 19 or 20 features. But you can set it where it doesn't operate after a certain time of night, and it won't start before a certain time in the morning. So if the button does get jammed, it's not going to run all night.
Okay.
And that'll help enforce our ordinance so we don't have people out there after hours doing things they shouldn't be doing. So, any other questions, concerns? Yes, sir.
Let's talk a little bit about the grant. Figure there's probably people wanting to know there too. That's a terrible spot. Stand up. Yep. So the grant, how do the funds get distributed? I mean, you got 1.6 million right there. Once you sign this on April 22nd, do they cut you a check for the portion, or is this incremental?
It's a
Time goes on and you have to show like status of how you're progressing with the project?
It's a reimbursement grant. What happens is every quarter, the city's accountant will put together a package, and we will submit that to IDNR, and then the IDNR will reimburse half of the money.
Makes sense.
But that's done on a quarterly basis. Every quarter they accept a payment voucher.
This is the 2-year project, is that like in the first year, or, I mean, because that's what.
It's throughout the whole project. So as Ken touched on earlier, we have 2 years to do this. So we can say this year we want to do the sand volleyball and the pickleball and the exercise equipment. So then those costs would go into reimbursement this year. Next year we would plan for the other part of the project. So we didn't divide that 286 in half because obviously it's not a 50% split on the project. You can't cut it right in half. So we didn't want to confuse people thinking we're only going to spend 147,000 this year, another 147,000 next year. Depending on what we decide to do this year is what we spend and then reimburse on the 50%. So that's the other thing is, if the public wants us to move forward, do they want us to move forward as a whole in 1 year? Do we want to divide this out? What would they want to see up front? Unfortunately, with this being almost April, I don't know if we'd be able to get the splash pad in this year. So we might not be able to do it all in a whole anyways. This still has to go into engineering and design. So there's no EPA permit required other than the water main extension over to the park. So, and that typically takes
But outdoor
90,
fitness almost has to be this year with that other point,
Right.
yeah.
So that would be that portion. And then we're talking, pickleball, sand volleyball, amphitheater. So that's where you guys can give some input too, as far as, I'd love to get the splash pad done first. That seems, you guys have seen some of the input that we've had on that. But again, I don't know what their availability is
Yeah.
at that point, because certain points, things that they being the vendor or supplier.
So like the splash pad, we're not going to install. There's too many features. There's too many things to go wrong. We don't want to take the liability of ripping up a concrete splash pad because our fitting didn't seal. And so, certain things we're aware that was just outside of our abilities to do, and liabilities that we don't want to take on. So
What's the average time it would take to install that?
that splash pad,
The installation's not the problem, it's usually the delivery of materials. You're probably, so again, as Lauren mentioned, we're not looking until the end of April to sign the agreement, get it back to IDNR. It could be another month before they execute it and get it back. We have to survey the site. We have to get the water main designed. You're probably 3 months out on an EPA permit.
So it sounds like you're gonna miss the
so
season.
really we
the
may be
splash
able to
pad
break
is
ground on
probably-
the splash pad
right.
this year, but completion is probably next year, unfortunately.
Or it would be installed too late for the kids to use it. My kids like being cold, so they would probably use it, but it's just a lot of lead times with that, especially with the EPA
It might
involvement.
make sense to do the quick and easy stuff, get it off
Exactly.
the table, and then schedule the splash pad for early next year.
Yeah, and it's the water main could be done this year. The city could have everything ready, and then that way, and then the materials could be ordered over the winter, and then come spring, that could be one of the first things put in, so that when the weather breaks, it's available.
But, back to transparency, I want everybody to understand timing on this, as much as we would love to see everything get completed this year, some of it's just out of our control, so we want to make sure people have a little bit of, yeah.
Are the materials for the splash pad typically a little cheaper in the wintertime if you're ordering within, or?
That's such a specialized item, I'd highly doubt it.
The prices usually go up each year, so
Yeah,
it could be something that the materials are purchased this year and held. I've seen a lot of towns do that, where they will purchase the materials early in the year or late in the year and then just hold them until the following year. That way they have a locked-in cost and the materials are there and ready. But every year, unfortunately, as Lauren said, there's specialty. Some products on the market have fluctuations, but they just seem to ratchet up all the time.
I think it's a great idea for this whole thing being done on the east side. There's a whole draw that we have from Indiana.
Yep.
Coming here to go to Walmart or whatever, but, we can have such a larger group coming in from Indiana. It's a large market for us.
And realistically, the town's growing east, right? So it really does make sense. So, I mean,
We need to get out of the flood zones,
yeah.
floodplains, things like that, and when we do build, let's build something that's gonna be a long time for the future. But, other people have mentioned this about drawing people from other areas to Watsika for the activities, but it's eventually going to cause people to move here as well.
Once their eyes open to what we have to offer, I truly believe that you'll see people wanting to stay.
Example, people will drive to Gibson City to go to an outdoor movie,
Yeah.
so it's an hour drive.
I do it myself, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
Very
it's
late night.
it's a late night if you catch both movies, but you offer the public something, they'll use it, they'll stay, they'll come here from outside of town.
People mention bowling and, things like that. I mean, combination facilities, so, one side of the building, it's a outdoor movie theater, and the other side it's bowling alleys and stuff. So there's all kinds of things that we need to do that, talk about growth, for the city, and for our business, that's a combination package.
And
It's not just,
as business-minded people see what we have to offer and see that people are coming here, we hope that they recognize there's other voids that I can build something or provide a service, and people all of a sudden are developing here, so,
Investing for our future.
yep.
One of the top 5 questions asked, you know, what do you do for leisure?
Yeah.
Last question out of me. Did I interrupt somebody?
Nope.
Oh, okay. On the amphitheater thing, so the splash pad, everything, that's awesome. Do you guys think that, maybe you'd get more use out of another pavilion type thing than a stage theater? Just being, I feel like every weekend this thing's gonna be kid birthday parties, like something free for parents to, you know, have a kid's birthday party there. I mean, it's gonna be like slammed, I feel like, as far as.
Well, I think the footprint will provide the ability to use it for parties as well.
Okay.
I don't think you're gonna do a stage that's gonna cover the whole thing. I think you're just gonna do a backstage just for an elevated area.
I don't know if you've ever been to Gibson City Park. Of course, it's older, but the stage doesn't take up that much room, and they have a little.
You know, and what we could do is we can get some more renditions or ideas. We can get some more things out on the internet to give maybe some sort of survey that maybe we'll maybe get 4 or 5 different options and ask people pick which option you like the best, and maybe we can do a basic survey that.
I don't know how many local bands we have, you know, and how much, so it's like, I hate to see something sitting there.
Yeah.
When it could've been used for a kid's birthday party.
It might be, they might have something that there's a stage that's somewhat removable too. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
I've also had a lot of requests for a community center that might get used a lot more than Van Shell, I've heard.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't, I don't know as far as community centers where to go with that as far as here. But, you know, unfortunately, the grants wrote, you know, a band shell amphitheater type, you know, building, so we're kind of.
Don't call it an amphitheater, just call it a pavilion with a stage.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you know, it's,
Amphitheater that is like really makes it seem like.
we're definitely not trying to build a Tinley Park type state. Yeah, we're not going that
That's
route.
what's got everybody like kinda stirred up.
No, it's,
Band shell.
yeah, well, and that's what, you know, amphitheater, band shell, it's,
Some kids probably like the stage.
So we're not gonna be Tinley Park then?
yeah, not yet. Give us a few more years. How's that?
Yeah, REO's retiring, so maybe we can get them here.
I went to a vacation place just outside of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and what was neat about it, once a month, they would have a couple local bands on a Friday night. Like Friday, like starting at 3 o'clock, they bring in a beer truck, they'd have some food vending trucks, shut it off like at 8 o'clock, so it's not like an all-night drunk for anything. And it drew a lot of people. And if you bring that in, they're gonna go out to eat. They're gonna, you know, if they don't eat there, they're gonna do other stuff. They're gonna do their shopping. But if you do that just once a month, do it April through September or October. You'll do that. You can maybe even talk to Mr. Parman, or maybe the high school band will play one night. There's a lot of things you can do with that that'll draw people into that. Little local concerts is a big deal, where people just bring their lawn chairs out and just, like I
There's a
said.
lot of local talent. I mean, we have one in the house tonight, so.
No, I mean, absolutely.
Small concert for her fans.
Yeah, we want to provide a platform for people and opportunities. You know, you give somebody an area to start off and something like that, and you never know where it'll end up. So it's
We have a lot of opportunity.
you know, and the more draw we have in town, the more fuel we sell at our gas stations, the more motor fuel tax we receive, which helps us with our road work. You know, currently we receive about $240,000 a year in fuel tax. 280. I was close. So yeah, that doesn't do a lot of road repair with the cost of asphalt and things. So, you know, it's about drawing people in, getting other tax money from outside of town. And I don't want to sound harsh because it's not all about tax money, but it gives us the ability to make improvements in our community. So without raising property taxes, because that is the end key, is to keep property taxes down for everybody. And the last thing anybody on this council wants to do is raise property taxes. And I've sat up here, listening for about 3 years now, and they do a good job with trying to keep costs down. I support them. I try my best with doing as much in-house to try to keep costs down to help them as well. And it's, the bank statement shows that they're doing a good job, honestly. So I appreciate that.
Scale, 240 to 280,000 a year. And we, part of the one thing where we started on the south side of 8th Street and ended up by the courthouse, but we did 2.5 blocks of mobile. They were pretty chewed up, I'm sure. Remember how bad that was back in the day? Keith, am I right? Was that almost 400,000?
It was about 400,000, just under 400,000.
240 to 280. I mean, we're having to save up to do any kind of significant project.
And for transparency, you'll see projects take place like that, and people will be, why did you do those 2 blocks when you could do these other ones on the other side of town? It's mobilization costs and fees. When you have to pay that paver and equipment to move from one side of town to the other, you're paying for it. They don't move that equipment for free. So you try to link projects together to try to save money at the end. So it's just transparency's sake there.
I like the way you guys do projects so that you're not putting down a road and then a couple of weeks later cutting it up because you gotta replace a water line.
So we've been trying to be mindful on our infrastructure underground. We have an aging infrastructure that in the years past, we've seen a lot of failing pipes right after road work, and we've been trying to change our mindsets on that. So unfortunately, that increases the projects, but you save money at the end of the day.
We don't have the fiber optic.
Yeah. But
I
any,
guess what we're saying is, as the saying goes, build it and they will come.
Amen.
go ahead.
So, thank you, Bob, for saying that, because I kept repeating that in my head, is I don't want to get stuck on build it and they will come. So my question, with the follow-up is, do we have a park manager that is dedicated to recreational, social outreach and marketing?
We do not.
So the reason why I ask that is my background is in sales and marketing, and I've almost personally opened 200 retail stores throughout the U.S. and Canada, primarily in tourist destinations. And some of them were in new areas where they were developing something exactly like what you guys are trying to do here at Lakeview. And it was getting the foot in the door to open up a space that in 5 years was going to start flourishing and being exactly what you guys are wanting this to be. And one thing that I always had to do was develop metrics and key performance indicators and start measuring things. Because if you don't measure things, they don't get managed. And there's some of these things where absolutely, if you build it, they will come. The splash pad really being the biggest one. But much like what Tanner was saying, if you build an amphitheater or a band shell or a glorified pergola with a stage, if you will, how many bands do we have locally that will fill that up? That's a pretty common question, but from some events that we've hosted, there's actually quite a few musicians locally and a lot of great musicians. But it's one of those things where, well, who do they reach out to book this space? Who's going to manage getting, tournaments going at the sand volleyball court? Who do people reach out to schedule, some sort of lake concert? And are they going to develop a metric where we can measure what did that do for the town? How much did we increase in gas sales? How much did the local economy benefit? Like getting a committee of the actual business people in the area who are, and I understand it's a subject that it's a sensitive thing to talk about sales and numbers, but on a day where there's supposedly a larger concert, that may come to a bit of you have to talk to residents that are local who might have to say, okay, we will put up for the extra, sound that we're going to incur on this day. Okay, well, at what cost? What did the town benefit? And if you had this committee of local business owners that say, on this specific day, from these hours, we saw an increase in sales, 17%, 21%. That way we can measure and start to build we need to get on it with these other grants for these other parks, or we need another grant so we can continue to build off of this one. And that brought me to the question of, do we have someone in place now? And I know you just said no, but thinking into the future as these projects start, when do we start identifying said individual or individuals to build that up? Because I don't want to get to a place where these things are here and, you know, they're 3-4 years down the line, the complaints are, nobody uses this, they wasted X, Y, Z money. When, you know, if we can get ahead and start thinking, well, how do we manage this? That's
No, I mean, valid points. You know, maybe we look at a committee or a individual staff, whatever. You know, currently we utilize, you know, Kathy, our admin. She does a lot of the scheduling when people need to rent or, you know, use the park, whatnot. Obviously, we rent the parks, but it's free. We just reserve the parks, I guess is the proper word there. We don't want to burden her with too much, and let's face it, a younger individual that's like yourself, that's.
Well, I was gonna say, Scott or Benny, get her on contract.
But you know, we do need somebody to sell Watsika. You know, we need that outreach. I mean, I'm not a social media person, so it was a struggle for me just to get this out there in the public. You know, and it's just not me. I'm more of a mechanical type person, so we do need people to get that outreach to make sure people are even aware we have a splash pad or the amphitheater to use and to sell Watsika. And then, like you said, if we can have proof in the pudding that this is drawing in revenue for the community, this is drawing in people into our community to live here, that gives us the ability to continue to invest in ourselves. So I 100% agree with you, because that's what this is another investment in Watsika. I know it's a lot of money, but Watsika is not going to grow unless the city and the residents invest it back into itself. I mean,
But she's right, you need to track your ROI.
100%. And if we have that proof.
You invested this money and this is the return from it.
Yes, sir.
That makes the confidence in the citizens to do.
And you know, even like during the family festival, it'd be nice to be able to track some of those costs that comes in, because you know that's a selling point for the festival to get commitment from the city. You know, and sponsors, everything else. You want to see that uptake in people here, and so that way you can justify it. So.
I've been to one of the stores you started up in Pigeon Forge, right? I mean, the planning, I mean, it's all big astroturf, and I mean, it's packed all the time and stuff, so planning and marketing can go.
100%. I mean, really need to market it, so.
And how big is Pigeon Forge again? Is that 3,600 people in there?
what?
Well, weren't you telling me that Pigeon Forge, or am I talking Gatlinburg? It's
Oh,
really not
no.
that big a population.
No, you're thinking of Gatlinburg, which Pigeon Forge feeds into to Gatlinburg, but yeah, the population is just like over 1,000 people, which you wouldn't think because it's such a huge tourist destination. I live 20 minutes away from Gatlinburg, and during peak tourist season, it would take me 4 hours to get to my store, and they had 4 of them in a 1-mile strip. But again, they built Gatlinburg to be a tourist destination, so it's a little bit different in terms of exactly what you guys have really envisioned or reimagined for Watsika. But whenever it's decided, if it's decided to move forward with this grant and things start moving forward, at that point, it wouldn't be premature to have those conversations with local business owners and local groups and nonprofits, because there's an individual here that recently just launched their nonprofit that has to do with social media, and that's definitely an asset to bring in and utilizing. Like, I didn't realize about using the high schoolers and college intern. That's amazing, and that's a huge part of what we want to do with our business as we continue to grow. But integrating as much of the local community, the local business owners, it gives you that sense of ownership. And when you can get things like that started at the very peak of the beginning, by the time the project has come to completion, you have that sense of ownership to the project, and just that word of mouth alone and that level of, I want to tell everybody about this. I want, even if I'm not a social media be a part of it and to be aware as much as possible. So, you know, if this moves forward, whatever you guys, you know, decide with, you know, I would certainly love to be a part of a committee that tries to integrate more of that transparency and finding middle ground for things.
I've kind of been sitting up here quiet listening, but since this has been brought up, we have a park district here in Watsika. It's paid for by taxes, and I know that the park district in itself doesn't own any of the property. The city does. And this property is owned by the city. But to me, it seems, and we've got the president of the park board who's sitting here with us tonight, that that might be a perfect opportunity for the park district to get back together and work closer within the city, because this sounds like something that might be in their wheelhouse. So I think that since they're both taxing bodies and we all residents of Watsika pay into it, that it might be something that's worth reaching out to and having that layer of communication with the park district as well, if nothing else, just for the management of the business aspect of what you're talking about, because we know that they can't afford to take over the properties, and I know that there's things that can't be done. I don't know exactly what they are as of yet, but I've heard about it. But I think that's an asset that we overlook.
I don't say about 2 weeks ago I had a Chicago radio station in the truck. I think I told Lauren this. They was talking about Orland Park or somewhere in that neighborhood of applying for this $600,000 grant, put in pickleball and sand volleyball and all this other stuff, and they were denied because they was out of money. If we don't take this by the 21st, it's going to get passed to somebody else, and there's people sitting out there waiting to snap on to it. So we need to move.
Don's correct. If you're not familiar how grants work, it's on a scoring system. So as people drop off because they choose not to do the projects because they might not have the 50% match funding, the next person in line has that opportunity, and it keeps going down that line. And so someone will swoop in and take it. I mean, it's $600,000 left on the table if we choose not to move forward with it. But
I, for one, don't see anything negative with moving forward with it. I mean, I speak for me, but I think you've addressed any negativity that there could have been there.
and
I would agree. I think if you look at what we have here, the vast majority, if not entirety, everyone is in favor of this. You're never going to make everybody happy. That's impossible. If those that are not in favor of it, they should be here, at least speaking, letting us know their piece. But a lot of times they like to chirp from the background. So my point is, I think it's back to what John said. When people are out searching for towns, they're looking for schools, they're looking for healthcare, they're looking for if you have a good internet base, and they're looking for recreation. You know, everyone bellyaches about taxes. None of us like taxes. We're in the highest tax state in the country. That's not going to change with who runs the state and what party runs the state. Sorry, unless you live on a rock, that's the way it is. But the best way to take care of this is expand your tax base. And by doing that is by bringing people in. These are the things that Watsika has to do. I think it's done a nice job of it. I think a great thing is the potential of the affordable housing up on Elm. So we have to grow it, and it costs money to grow. And if you don't want to grow, we're going to die. You're either growing or you're dying. That's all there is to it in a small town.
I think everybody here wants to grow.
Yeah.
So I think we need to get moving forward, and I would ask Mr. Mayor, when you're gonna put this up for the city council to vote on?
It would have to be in April now. I don't think we can get it done by next week.
yeah, I mean, we could put it on code or public works, or we could, you know,
The initial discussion.
so, you know, realistically, we'll put it on public works agenda. We'll vote on it, and then it'll go to full council at the end of April. This will give us some time to get some more ideas, maybe do a basic survey on the band shell to try to get some more input. Again, we still have a lot of engineering and designing to go through, so, you know, we have time to pick on what we want, but we want to get started, obviously, as soon as possible, once the decision has been made.
Do you see an issue with the newly elected board being sworn in at that April meeting causing a delay in this?
I don't, I believe if it goes on, it would be old business, so, you know.
Call a special council meeting? Get it pushed through and done?
No, good.
I just don't wanna see that deadline sneak up on you.
Yeah.
Throw a wrench at you.
When is that deadline again, April?
April 22nd, we have to sign the agreement by.
I think if you can push it, you'd be
Yeah.
better suited.
And realistically, and I feel this has been a very silent issue because of the election, so I think we're kind of getting past all that, and that's why I really wanted this public hearing, meeting to get your input, and wanted to get it out on social media to see what the concerns were, and try to get this addressed sooner rather than later so we can get this moving forward, so we don't miss our deadlines if we do want this grant. So, I guess I'd leave that up to the council if they want to hold a special council meeting early in April, but I think we have time and still be able to do it under old business with the existing council if everybody's in agreement with that. I think it's,
After your meeting, we can do one on Thursday.
I would think the planning commission would be happy to get together with a quick meeting if you want our approval.
Yeah, first week of April.
You know.
And down next week, we need
Oh,
my
I-
branch office.
Yeah, well, I think we can probably get something together fast.
and if individuals have questions or concerns later, feel free to like private message me. I'll respond to you that way. I'm not gonna do a big back and forth on a post. So again, it's not that I don't want to answer questions. I want to do it appropriately. And sometimes you open up things that you don't really want to open up on social media. So feel free to reach out to me through Messenger, my phone number, City Hall, Public Works. Give me a call. I'd like to say day or night, but I prefer day. But my phone rings all night long as well, so, but yeah.
Use issue, I talked to the fire chief, you know, we're now putting people on from 7 to 7 because we were having problems getting people during the day to provide for fires. He said that they could bring a truck in and help flush if that's.
Yeah, the fire department's been great to help out with like the boat ramps and different things like that. So we have a really good support system. We have good departments here. Everybody works well together. Again, what better place to have this than right across the street from your police station? I mean, it's a safe place.
We'll probably have some sort of fencing or at least hedges or something or bushes around what we're talking about.
So we have some, let Keith go.
Yeah, I
over
mean,
that.
with the pickleball and the sand volleyball, you're going to want fences around them, or else you'll be chasing the balls across the street and people will get injured. So those will be enclosed.
Yeah. Eh,
Pad have fence around it,
no,
control where they come in and out or anything.
nope. We want that to be an open space for the kids to play, and I feel like that's more inviting. People don't think there's a fee behind it when there's no fence. So I feel like you see a fence, you kind of automatically think you're gonna have to pay to get in there. So
Actually, the only one I've seen with the fence locally is Kankakee has one at Bird Park, and they do charge to get in. So they have a fence at the north end to allow access for people.
On that pad, on the splash pad, is it concrete or is it some kind of rubberized?
We're looking at that actually. So typically they're a concrete, but they do have a new rubberized surface for them, so it's a little bit softer. It's
I'm just thinking kids
we're
falling
we're leaning, Lauren and I have talked about this a little bit, and the one supplier just gave us the rubberized surface, and I like that for the feature that if the kids fall, it's a little bit softer on them.
So during design, we'll look at cost both ways and see if it fits in our budget or not. Obviously, design is going to try to fit within our budget. So, depending on what we want and what we want to add on, the band shell, depending on cost, we might have to scale it back if we want to add a concession stand or bathrooms, things like that. So we've got a budget we want to stay within, and that's going to be the driving point of what we end up with as well.
Splash pad will be handicap accessible, I assume.
Yep.
Yes, it will be. And there are some of the features at the splash pad that are specific for special needs children. They're very highly tactile features there, so it is very conducive for special needs children.
When we went through this, we were trying to be as mindful as possible for the entire community, all age groups, handicapped accessibilities, things like that. So this will give a lot of different age groups amenities to use. So, yeah, any,
Anything else, or we good with the cause?
Good job.
You're done.
I,
Like to say one thing, thank everyone who's coming in tonight.
yeah.
This is the way it should be ran, not all the bickering and yelling that you're doing.
Yeah.
You people come in and tell us what you need, what you like to have. It's the only way we can know it. No, I'm not a Facebook, all that crap that's on there, and, it's just ridiculous.
Well, but with that said, though, it is hard because we can't have those conversations during the meetings with you guys, other than public comment. That's the only time we're really allowed to talk.
If you want to participate, call and they'll put you down on the agenda.
Okay.
If you're on the agenda?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. It's,
You have a spot reserved for you.
What about public comment later towards the end of the meeting instead of right in the beginning?
When we knew someone was coming and wanted to speak, we kind of broken that up some. I think we've been flexible with that, or we can be flexible.
Because it's, right in the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, you don't know the meat and potatoes of the meeting
Exactly.
at that point.
and these are the things they need to hear on how we need to adjust our meetings to get people here and involved. So I love that. I think it's great. It's, I've been sitting here for almost 3 years, and those seats are always empty. And these folks have to make decisions and then take the backlash afterwards because they're strictly basing it off of what I have to say, if it's a project or their budget, drives them one way or the other versus hearing that the public would like to see $300,000 spent. Because if you guys weren't here saying that, they have a hard decision to make on their own that they're going to get backlash on. So we need the public's involvement, input. You guys are part of this project as well. So, definitely love to see more people here. Myself, staring at Don every day, every meeting, it's tough. So, no.
Other than that,
Thank you.
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And like I said, follow up with questions with me. Call down Public Works, message me, whatever it takes. Thanks. What you doing, buddy?
All I can say is way to screw up Lions Club. I was planning on going for dinner.
Oh.
I'm not gonna make it or I'll be late.
Shaquille. What's up, dude? How was your spring thing? Thanks for coming, Justin.
What time, is it 8:30 tomorrow?
It's good for the community.
Kind of talking about the physical
Absolutely. Oh, believe me, I wish it was like this every meeting. I'm never short of input. May not be very smart,